It fixed his memory. He did not have a brain disease. He did not have Alzheimer's disease, okay? So the ruling out process means that if something else is causing your memory issues or something else is causing those symptoms, had another gentleman who they thought also had Alzheimer's disease. When they did a brain scan, it was a tumor. They removed the tumor. He did not, and the tumor was not cancerous. So he did not have, he had some dementia symptoms, but as soon as they removed the tumor, those symptoms went away. So what I'm saying, somebody puts all the numbers on one side of the clock has had a stroke on the other side of the brain. So the test actually seems silly, but it actually is telling the assessor a lot about how your brain is functioning, okay? So, once a person's been fully assessed and everything else has been ruled out as a possibility, then they'll start doing scans, then they'll give the person the diagnosis, okay? The diagnosis is based on those test scores, it's based on scans. Some people might be told they have MCI. MCI means mild cognitive impairment. It's not considered a full brain disease. It just means that your short-term memory is pretty poor, okay? Doesn't mean you will get Alzheimer's disease if you have MCI. Now, a lot of times, how many people have heard these diseases of the brain are just a normal part of aging? Who's heard that before? Yeah. Sometimes what happens is we hear, oh, that's just getting old, or everybody gets old, gets like that, okay? So in the bottom corner here, you can see that the one side is a normal brain and the other one is one that has been experienced Alzheimer's. So what do you guys just notice visually from one of the images to the other? Yeah, it's smaller, it has shrunk. Yeah, it's shrunk. We got all these gaps. The brain's supposed to be nice and tight. We got all these gaps. So what is actually happening is when the nerve brain cells die, the whole brain shrinks. So it's actually death of the cells in the brain, making up the brain. So it shrinks it. And also what happens is when the cells around the ventricles die, the ventricles look bigger, so we get these gaps, okay? And so I remember one day that we had a lady who had Alzheimer's disease, and she was coming to a support group for people living with dementia, and when she arrived that morning, where the ears are, okay? So he's losing his ability to speak, and he's losing his ability to speak because you need that part of the brain for that, right? So when we see these changes in a person, one, don't assume it's nothing. It could be something reversible, okay? But it also could be one of these diseases. And we don't want to have an expectation of the person that is unrealistic. If they get diagnosed with any other disease, we want to know and we try to help them. Well, we want to do the same for dementia, right? Okay, make sense? Okay, how do we communicate with someone living with dementia? Checking time, yeah. How do we communicate with someone living with dementia? They start to communicate differently, okay? So I'm gonna give you guys an example. My dad is starting to really lose his words now, okay? So he says to my mom, can you bring me, it's sticky, and it's paper, and it's sticky. And so my mom is like, what does he want, right? So my mom calls me and she says, we brainstorm and we think he wants a lint roller, one of those sticky paper. That's what we're thinking, right? So we're like, okay, so we bring him sticky paper. We hand it to him and he goes, well, thanks, but it's not what I wanted. And so I said to him, okay, you're gonna have to show us because we're a little lost and I apologize for not getting it, but let's work together. So he goes, okay. So he pulls out a piece of paper out of a 3-ring binder, and you can see the holes are starting to tear. And he says, the little circles that go on the paper so it doesn't rip out of the binder. That's what he wanted, okay? So, reduce distractions, right, for the person. Make eye contact with them. Use very short, simple sentences. Yes and no questions are easier to answer for them, okay, in general. And keep it your tone of voice, very even and calm, right? To her, depending on the day and where in her memory she sort of was, okay? So when she was 96, she looked in the mirror and she said to me, "Who's the old broad?" And it was her. And I said, "Oh." I said, "Well, I don't know, but she seems really nice, and I think if we..." and everything before he met my mom. Yeah, because he thinks he's like, he'll tell me like things of when he was 17, 18. My dad didn't have me till he was 27, so I'm like, oh, this is fascinating stuff. Okay, offer appropriate help. Like I said, just ask them what works for them. What can I do to support you? What, you know, ask how you can help. Don't make an assumption, because everybody's different. Support the person's reality. Like I said, I didn't question my grandmother saying she was 24. I didn't question my dad when he said he was 48. Go with it, right? The more calm you stay, okay, in your tone of voice and in your body language, the better off for the person living with dementia. Can everybody make an okay sign for me with their hand? Okay sign? Okay, touch your cheek. Okay, now I said touch cheek, so if you went chin with me, right? It's because body language is actually stronger than the actual words you use. So if a person living with dementia isn't understanding our words, they're going to be watching our body language to figure out what we're trying to say, okay? So keep that body. This is what does this say? What body language is that? Right? Okay, impatience, right? Open palms, open arms, is a positive body language, okay? So we are sending them a message even if we don't think we are. We're actually sending everybody messages that we don't think we are. Now, these two gentlemen in the front row, are you friends? What you need to know about people living with dementia, especially since you're the Unity for Community, 3 out of 5 people living with dementia will have a missing incident because of that memory impairment, because they might think they're younger than they are. They may be retired but think I have to go to work and leave. Or they might think, oh, I have to go to my friend's house in the neighborhood they used to live in, but they don't live in anymore, so then they go to the old neighborhood, okay? But they can go missing. And so we need to know how to help them if they go missing. If somebody with a memory impairment goes missing, we call the police immediately. And the reason is a lot of families will start the search themselves, which I don't blame them, I get it, right? We all go, we should start looking, right? But the problem is if you look for 3-4 hours and don't find the person, and then you call the police, we've wasted where we could have had a whole host of people looking that whole time, and we probably would have found the person quicker, right? So the more people involved in the search, the better, in other words. Because, you know, our summers are really hot. How many of you are enjoying this heat wave? You like it?
We all like it.
I am suffering. I like spring and fall. And I do not like the heat. There's things you can do. There's a website called Finding Your Way. So if you know anybody with memory loss, Finding Your Way has some really good information on it. Has locating devices. It tells you about how to come up with a safety plan so that we can avoid someone going missing in the first place, things like that, okay? Very good website. The Alzheimer Study Appeal, which is the chapter I work for, we have 3 locations in Peel. We have one in Malton, one at here, Ontario, and Kennedy, and then we have one at in Port Credit, down in the south end, okay? So what we have is we have free counseling, free care navigation, free education, we have free support groups, we have a free bathing program, and our adult day programs, which we run, they do have a cost, but they are subsidized by the Ministry of Health, which means that they're about $20 a day. If you compare that to private home care, which is $30 an hour, with a minimum of 4 or 5 hours, it's quite, you know, reasonable, but there is a cost for that. Like I said, most of the services are free and they're available to anybody who lives in Peel Region.
What about diagnosis?
We don't do diagnosis at the Alzheimer's Society. A diagnosis of dementia right now really people ask what they'd like to ask for the next 10.
Can we get a presentation?
Yes, I will send a copy of the presentation. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you differentiate between Alzaymer and dementia?
Sure. So, if you think about the word dementia, okay, think about it like if you said, oh, someone has cancer, okay? If we said, oh, someone has cancer, the next question you might ask is what? What type? And what stage? Yeah. So when we say, oh, someone has dementia, the next question we would ask, what type? Okay, so is it the Alzheimer's type? Is it the frontal temporal lobe type? Is it the vascular type? There's a whole bunch of different diseases of the brain that it could be. And all of these diseases have stages. Okay? So like cancer, there's different stages. Okay, so someone could be in Alzheimer's stage 1 and another person in Alzheimer's stage 4. Okay? The difference between cancer and dementia is that these diseases of the brain, unlike cancer, if we catch it, even if we catch it in stage 1 or 2, it's going to keep going to the later stages because we don't have a way right now to reverse or get rid of the disease in the brain. We're just not as advanced with the brain as we are with the rest of the body. So hopefully, like cancer, we get there. And these diseases of the brain, we come up with ways to, and medications and treatments to reverse the damage done by the disease. But right now, we don't have that, yeah.
Terry, thank you for a nice presentation. How you can slow down the Alzheimer disease, like if once is diagnosed and if you want to slow it down, what procedure one has to follow?
Okay, so the question is, once somebody has Alzheimer's disease, what can you do to slow the progression, okay? So like I said, unfortunately, we can't stop the progression. It's going to continue, okay? But there are some medications available on the market that slow the progression. So if someone starts taking that in the early stages, the medication will help slow the progression, but it won't stop it, okay? Helps the person in the early stages function a little bit higher, but eventually the brain changes so much with those structural changes that the medication can't keep up. That's where we're at right now, yeah.
Actually, you mentioned B12 deficiency.
Yeah.
And that is one vitamin, right?
Yeah.
Is there any other vitamin that could be,
Yes.
cause of?
Yes, so the most common vitamin deficiencies that can cause some issues are B12, vitamin D, and thiamine. Anybody heard of thiamine?
Yeah.
Yeah, thiamine.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I will have the question after.
Oh, okay. I think I answered that one, yeah.
My question is this: children are burned out after looking at their parents. Do your government have got any facility to look after that?
Yeah, so in Ontario currently there's a couple of care options. So if there's high level of burnout, there are long-term care homes in Ontario, and there are also retirement homes with assisted living. That's an available option. I wish I could say that we have.
Picture?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go to the brain. There we go.
Yeah. So I need a mic to ask.
Okay.
this one.
Yeah, so I studied one Japanese neurologist study.
Yeah.
He divided the brain in 7 parts, and he showed the different colors of the brain.
Yeah.
And the green one is the best one part,
Okay.
that is been taken care.
Yeah.
So he explained that the colors means are different, efficiency is going down. It could be different reasons, but how we take care of ourselves is we need to intake of oxygen and water, and that you can keep the brain stronger.
Yeah.
And that's why all the time in our senior program we are encouraging them to do the exercise. So in normal case, 25% of the oxygen we take it what we need for the brain and body. To get the more oxygen in the water, we have to drink a lot of.
Presentation. So you were there, sir, so you saw that. So we have a presentation called Brain Health, and it is exactly that. It's based on the 12 modifiable risk factors of things that you can control from a lifestyle perspective. It's around hydration and the food you eat and the exercise and hearing. If you let your hearing go, you will be at a higher risk for dementia. Okay, so it goes through 12 modifiable risk factors. So absolutely, I can do that presentation another day for you. If you guys want me to come back to do that, I'd be more than happy to. But it's a whole presentation. It takes me an hour to go through it. So.
In October or November?
Yes.
My question is this, what early age we can correct our memory and what we have to eat and what we